Ladies and gentlemen, the time has come. We've had a week. The sunset is happening on the first week of 8.3. Heroic week is upon us. Mythic week is coming next week. A quick reminder, I am going to be in Germany from Sunday for the World First race. I'm going to be there for a couple of weeks and giving you as much information as I can from there. So this has been a bit of a struggle because I love 8.3. I really like it. However, it's not perfect. I want to be clear on that. It's absolutely not perfect. There's definitely some problems that are clear and evident, and there is certainly a bigger issue on the horizon than is being given enough credit for, and that is in the name of corruption gear and how that's working. Now, I want to be clear on this, but there's going to be a separate video. I like the corruption system. I've played with it for quite a while on the PTR. It's got some wonderful RPG elements. However, it's got some big problems with it that are going to become an even bigger issue next week and the week after. So I want to do a separate video on that tomorrow. All right, let's talk about 8.3. 8.3, I love 8.3. I love this change in direction to how they're handling a lot of stuff in the game. However, it's pretty evident this has been a massive culture shock to a lot of people because it is nothing like the way BFA or even Legion has been working. And that has really disrupted the status quo of a lot of people who are just finding it very frustrating and very angry, where I did my best. I think so. I did my best to prepare as many people as possible for what 8.3 was going to be like. This different change in direction to how you earn rewards in 8.3 and making sure you were aware of it. Now, obviously, we don't reach every corner of the audience, and the feedback in some areas has been very negative towards that. So let's talk about the obvious one, and that is like rep gains and how this system is implemented, why I like it, and why people really dislike it. Because they're not without merit either. So the system is designed to benefit those people who cannot play World of Warcraft all the fucking time. That's how it's been designed, and that's how World of Warcraft was for a really, really long time. Now, that doesn't mean the old way was the best or I'm big boomer head or anything like that. It's just a case of, you want, as me as a player, there are definitely people I want to play with who can no longer take part in the activities I want to do, namely raiding. You know I'm a big raider. Because the out of raid mandatory, and this is the word we've used a lot through BFA, the mandatory content that you have to do to keep your character on par with the rest of your raiders is so overwhelming that they simply cannot do it. And I've seen, and sure many of you have seen, many raiders who are like, I just can't AP farm all the time. Not only that, even if I could, I don't want to. I do not want to log into this game when I've got an hour free or something like that, and I'm forced to do emissary quests, as much AP as possible, and certainly if I have limited time to play, that's all I can do because my guys who can play all the time are so significantly far ahead, gaining big power increases, which is the big problem. So in BFA, we had things like Azurite armor that simply would not work if you did not reach a certain value of neck. So what we had was all the raiders farming and sucking up every single drop of AP available to them. And we're seeing it again now, but for different reasons with the top guilds. Just so that armor worked, because it doesn't matter how good you are, it doesn't matter how wonderful your personality is and how much I wanted to raid with you, if you came to the raid and you were given gear, it just didn't work. Like, you couldn't turn it on, you couldn't flick the switch, it might as well not had a light bulb in the light switch, because you're just like, I have the tools, I have the switch, but it doesn't work. And that happened to a lot of people. Now, it affected the casual player base much less, obviously, we call it the mythic tax. But it's a system that was implemented. And then we had the Essence system, which some of them required quite a large grind, especially at launch. They've been made easier now, but they're not ideal. We know that. But some players just can't be like, I can farm all this honor, and I can keep up every day with reputation dailies in Nazjatar and Mechagon in order to get my essences at a time that is appropriate for where the guild will be progressing. And in a very, very real way, I am underpowered. Doesn't matter how good I am. It doesn't matter how well I avoid mechanics. Doesn't matter how well I can play my class. I am simply behind. And it sucks. And it really fucking sucks. And so many players left because of that. So 8.3 has addressed that in a good way by giving you the enormous portion of the required stuff face on. Absolutely face on. So whichever point you log in during the week, and it's going to happen again on reset, you just get so many horrific vision vessels, you get a huge amount of reputation, you get a massive chunk of AP if your neck is behind, and it's all front loaded at whichever point of the week you have the free time to log in. And not only that, you get it extraordinarily quickly. So if you do have that hour to log in, let's say you're somebody like, I can't log in at reset until raid time, right? You raid on a Tuesday if you're in the US, or you raid on a Wednesday if you're in the EU. You log in, and I finish work, I come home, I can log in 20 minutes before the raid. That means that I can't prepare all this shit beforehand. I just can't do it. When I can do that is like Friday. I can do it on a Friday, because Friday we don't have raid. Friday I get an hour where the wife is watching something on TV, or the wife's got her own thing to do. My kids are in bed, or vice versa, or any situation like that. I have free time then. I get an hour or two to log into World of Warcraft. Now, that's actually fine in the 8.3 system, because you're no longer behind. You're not behind. At best, you've missed a couple of thousand coalescing essences from the mini visions. That's it. Everything else, you're going to get enough visions in order to cover the upgrades of your legendary cloak and keep that up to date. That's going to happen. Just if you log in on a Friday and get all your stuff done then. You're not even going to be that far behind on reputation. And that's the thing that works for me. I like that system because it brings many more people into the game without saying, I can raid, because this is a very common thing I heard. I can raid 3 days a week. Okay, I can organize to raid 3 days a week. What I cannot organize is more than double that time to keep my character up to date. So that's the way they've designed it. You get a huge amount of stuff very, very quickly. And then they give you the option. If you want to get more stuff and push a little bit further ahead, and I mean a little bit further ahead, that's going to take you way more time. But the option is there to do that if that's something you want to do. And that's why I'm seeing a lot of threads like, is it me? Or certainly the rare quest. We all agree the rare quest is fucking terrible. The spawn rate is all over the place. It sucks. The rare quest, is it me, or is it not worth doing? And I've got to give shout outs to Talias and Evertel here, who have also been pushing this message forward, because the answer is yes, it's not worth doing. If you don't have the time and it frustrates you, it's not worth doing. It's 75 rep. What is worth doing, if you are going to go down to these zones and do a couple of the dailies, are the events. Because those are world quests. That's what they are, but they're done in a different way. They're world quests, of which there are many of them. They are guaranteed, they are instantaneous, and they're usually very, very quick. And that gives you more rep than doing the dailies. So you might get a couple of hundred rep from doing the dailies, 200-300, depending on if you got 3 or 4. But there's going to be about 5, 6, or 7 events down there giving 50 rep a piece, giving you more rep than doing the dailies. And the chances are you're going to do a couple of the dailies by accident while doing the events. You might miss out on the tedious ones, like clearing rares and stuff like that. That takes you way less time. And I would challenge you, next time you're down there, go, okay, I'm not going to do the annoying one. Let's say it's the rares. I'm not going to do the rare quest. But I'll do everything else and see how long it takes you. And I guarantee you finish in like a fraction of the time, and you're done. And all you're missing out is 75 rep. And then comes the next big thing that's a very real way of doing things. What does this rep actually get me? So in some cases, you might want the essence. So that rep's more valuable to you. Some cases are few. Are very few. We're looking at the essences as raiders. Not many of them actually come from reputation are the ones you want. Meaning the rep is practically worthless for a push it standpoint, right? Sure, everybody wants to get exalted eventually with everything. That's really nice to do. You do want access to the mounts and things like that. But unless you are like, I need every scrap of rep every single day to get it as early as possible, which still, even mathematically, does not happen until way after Mythic Week, right? It happens like second week or maybe late first week if you did every single thing. Is it something you actually want? And this brings us then to the augment rune. So a lot of people are like, well, I want the permanent augment rune. It's like, but when do you need that? Because it's extraordinarily expensive to the point that buying normal runes is considerably cheaper. You could buy so many augment runes with the same amount of gold it's going to cost you to buy the permanent augment rune. And don't get me wrong, of course it's nice to have that little, and it is little, let's remember that, it's extremely tiny bonus to your character at all times. Yes, it's nice. I've always bought it. But in terms of practical usage, in terms of it actually making a difference, even people pushing the top world don't use them that often because they're very, very tiny. They are consumable, and it's just not worth it. They don't make enough of a difference. It's probably not why you're wiping, right? It's only when we are past the point where we're wiping to lack of damage or something like that, which is not regular, by the way. It's very not regular. Do things like augment runes come into play? Other than that, they're useless for the most part. They don't do much of anything. And that's what you need to consider is if you really desperately need them, it's worth just buying them off the auction house than being frustrated and murdering yourself trying to get an extra 75 rep a day by doing a quest that takes maybe an hour, right? That's the trade-off. And even if you skipped that quest, as I said, it's like 75 rep, assuming you got the rare quest every single day, which you don't, 75 rep a day. Once the contract comes out and people start hitting revered and you can do other dailies to get it if you really want it, you're going to outpace that in like 7 world quests. Like so quickly, you're going to outpace that loss that it's going to, you're going to be a couple of days behind at best, right? That's the very real situation you're in, is it's not worth it. And it's designed that way. It is designed that way. It is designed in such a way, and 8.3 is designed in such a way that just you might have the freedom to spend 12, 13 hours a day playing World of Warcraft, if not more. But many players don't, and they shouldn't be punished for that. Because that's an unreasonable expectation for a video game. It really is an unreasonable expectation for a video game. And therefore, I'm totally on board with this system. Now, what it hasn't been done is marketed correctly. People aren't getting it because BFA and Legion really spoon-fed players into what they should do every day. And in fact, when I spoke to people who came back, they were like, okay, I logged in, I opened the map, and there was blue question marks everywhere, or a thing saying, go here and get a box. And then they went and did it. And it was like very much A to B, this is what I should do. And then coming back out of it and saying that was really boring. So they flipped it on the head in 8.3. And I hope this is what they continue into Shadowlands. I genuinely do hope it comes that way. But the problem I'm seeing is there are a lot of players who just don't know what to do with their free time. Especially if they've been used to their entire free time being taken up by what Blizzard just pastes in front of you as stuff that's happening that day. And even though it's the same content you've been grinding since day one of BFA, people are happy to be like, okay, the game decides the game decides what I'm playing today, rather than the players deciding what they want to do today. Because of course, in the new system, if you want to go and do Mythic Plus, PvP, you know, what you want to do, what do I enjoy doing in the game, you can go and do that without feeling like you've been left behind. Like you're letting somebody down. Like you're not going to be prepared. If you want to spend the day farming herbs, you're not doing it with the burden of, yeah, but I kind of need to throw some time at this stuff. I kind of need to do this mandatory rep grind every single day in order to keep up, because you no longer need to do that. And that's what I find wonderful about 8.3. That's what I really, really enjoy about it. I've spent much of my time doing other things. I still have not done the Vulpera questline. I've been doing other things that help my character for what I want to do with it, which is to raid. That's what I want to do. I'm focusing on those things rather than what else. In fact, usually I come and do my 8.3 daily stuff kind of last. I kind of leave it till last, unless I'm streaming, in which case we'll do it at some point during the day, but even then I'll do it at the end of everything else. I focus on what I need right now for my character to raid, then I'll go and do the rest of the stuff. Because frankly, not a lot of the stuff that I get from doing all the dailies is worthwhile. At best, I want the coalescing visions so I can do as many horrific visions as possible. Why? I really enjoy them. I'm earning more than I will need for cape upgrades, so I just want to have fun with them, which is what I do. Let's talk about the horrific visions then. So horrific visions have been another one that has been debatable on how good it's going to be. I personally really enjoy them, but I've also had massive frustration in them. The brilliance of this system is that you earn more, as I said earlier, than cape upgrades. You do earn more than cape upgrades, which means you can fail them, which means you're allowed to push and try hard. I'm already seeing more and more threads pop up every day with people who are just getting their legendary cloak upgrade, which means they're going in and killing Thrall, as it is this week, and then being like, is that it? Well, the answer is no, that's absolutely not it. In my guild, we have a guild already that has five bossed it, done every single boss, and has done a faceless mask run. And they're pushing really hard, they're min-maxing it, they're looking at exactly what percentage of mobs they need, exactly what positions are going in, and investing a lot of time into something that's really enjoyable. I've done several push runs that I've enjoyed, that have come down to the wire where we've killed Thrall with like 60 sanity left and been like, fuck yeah, that's really cool, while getting a lot more extra mementos and things. Nothing big. Not a huge reward, but a satisfactory and fun reward because I enjoyed doing it. Horrific Visions are content that are as interesting and as fun as you want to make them. Now, again, we're running into the kind of problem that is prevalent through a lot of gamers, which is the path of least resistance. I don't want to fail, so the best option for me is to not risk failure. Now, that's fine. But at the same time, coming back and saying these are terrible because that's how you're choosing to play them is a little bit misleading, and I don't think that's very fair. Now, the argument that comes with this is I do enjoy them, but I'm limited by how many times I could do them. That is a difficult one to solve, and I see where you're coming from, because it would be nice to go in and explore them, figure it out, practice a bit more, do all those things. Now, of course, there's pros and cons to both of that side. One is if you can go in anytime you want, spend as long as you want in there and practice things and do things like that, then there's no real option to, even if you didn't get any rewards, so you could go in and sort of like a blank slate, it takes a lot of the fun out of it, of the risk of actually going for it and figuring it out on the fly and listening to people talking about it outside of it, which is a big part of the game I very much enjoy, is after runs, having a chat about it. What could we have done better there? What can we do next time? All right, are we going to risk it this time? All right, let's flask up. Let's go for it. Let's get in there. However, having said that, I said there's pros and cons to this. So I do like the system as it is now. There's the other element of it, which is I kind of want to help my friends. And I would quite like the option of being able to help people in their run, even though I personally don't get any rewards. Now, I think that would be a good option to add to Horrific Visions, is if you're in a group and somebody needs their run doing, you can help them out. The con to that, again, always pros and cons. There's always pros and cons. The cons to that is people just selling Horrific Visions. And that would ruin Horrific Visions pretty much non-stop. So what you could have is a group of Giga Chads who literally are like 100,000 gold and we'll 5-boss this motherfucker for you. As simple as that. That's what's going to happen. If you pay us, we'll run you through it over and over again. You'll get maximum mementos, you'll get gem slots early, and they'll just rake in all your gold that's hard-earned in your, for however you acquired it. I think given those options, it's better this way around. A lot of people are comparing it to Torghast, which does not have a time limit, although I don't think that's realistically going to be the case. It's going to be limited in some form, but I don't know what it's going to be yet until the Shadowlands Alpha comes out. That's going to be one of those things. Now, the bugs. Let's talk about the bugs and the problems that have been happening. I said frustration with Horrific Visions. I had a frustration. I don't have it on camera, unfortunately, but I had a really fun opportunity to do a Horrific Vision, which was me and Alex and Loz from Fat Boss. That was the team. A 3-man team was going in. Lots of alts that needed keys, needed cloak upgrades, so we were going to go in with like this. And one of the tactics you can use, one of the tactics you can effectively use in Horrific Visions, if people have different sanity levels, is you can actually allow a couple of people to die if you know that the last person standing is going to be fine and get out of combat, and then you use the orb to res them. That is the design of the sanity orb, is to do that. And I know this bug has occurred to many people, is we did that because we were like, okay, we can either use the sanity orb now while we were at like 400 sanity, and then kill the big boss that was coming, or we're actually in a good position here to nuke the boss as hard as we can. Definitely, and it was Loz in this case, definitely Loz will still be alive afterwards. And if we die on top of each other, then Loz can just res us afterwards. And that gives us a full bar of sanity where we can push forwards much further than if we use the orb now. So it was a good tactic, right? So me and Alex blasted as hard as we could. We were like, okay, we're dying soon. So we died on top of each other. Loz went to res us, cast the orb, and it didn't res us. And he couldn't click us, he couldn't do anything. So we relogged, didn't work. And that was it. Our run's dead. All we could do was watch as Loz had to go and solo Thrall on a 3-man scaled dungeon while we just sat there, unable to do anything. And it turns out that if you don't tag the bosses, you don't get the reward. So me and Alex didn't get the cloak reward. We got the rewards for the bosses we did kill, but because we never tagged Thrall, we didn't get it. And that was very frustrating because that's just not the way this is supposed to work. And when you're dealing with an environment that is limited in terms of how much you can do it, then that's really frustrating. That is really frustrating. It's like, we didn't fail here because of us. We played the game as intended, and it failed us, and that's what sucks. And there's a number of other bugs like that, including the gear dropping bugs, which I'm very aware of. Those problems need to be ironed out real quick, along with some of the dailies do need tweaking, because considering everything I just said, if you do have an hour or so, you should be able to complete the dailies, right? And with the way the spawns are working in some of these cases, that's not the case. It shouldn't take more than an hour to do an area, right? And some people are reporting an hour and 20 in order to get these things done. That's not right. It does need tweaking. That is where it's going. Now, the other aspect I did want to talk about here, although it's a little controversial, but I do want to throw my hat in the ring. So, Bell released a video, Mr. Bellular, where he'd been contacted by somebody who said he was from Blizzard, and talking about cut content and morale being low and issues with Shadowlands going forwards. and he reported on it, and it caused a lot of feedback and fuss. And I did have a private conversation with Bell about it. And in that conversation, I was like, well, the way you worded it, I wouldn't have reported on that, because the way you made it sound in your video was that you couldn't ascertain that the guy was definitely from Blizzard, and it needed clarifying. Now, he's done that afterwards. Like, that's what we did. It's like, okay, we need to clarify that, because I said, if I was to release a video like that, and I wouldn't, it was as simple as that, I wouldn't have said that unless I could 100% guarantee this information is right, because it can serve up hysteria and all sorts of stuff, especially amongst very passionate gamers. And in fact, I got into a huge Twitter war with somebody who was using, as many gamers do, unfortunately misusing that information, suggesting that the cutting of 8.3.5, they confused the patches. They confused that 8.3.5 is not 8.3. That's a patch somewhere in the future. And of course, that is not happening. They're moving straight to Shadowlands as a reason that he didn't like 8.3, because some people don't like 8.3. And that's fine. So it's led to all sorts of stuff like that, especially people who are very overly fanatical and very prone to reaction coming back like that. Now, here it is for me. 8.3 was the most tested patch since Warlords of Draenor. It was also, and the good thing about this is because I make videos, you can actually backtrack through this from my previous content. It was the most tested patch they've done since Warlords of Draenor. It was also the most changed patch I've ever seen. They listened to feedback so much to get this right. Their mistake is not marketing it properly and making some of the things obvious. Like the events in the areas, they should be on the map. Or friendly, you get a map that reveals them. Something like that. That absolutely should be the case. I fully agree with that. But the overall guidance of 8.3 is great in my eyes. Absolutely great. Absolutely tremendous. Really happy with it. And I'm wary as to Shadowlands at this point. I'm very wary as to Shadowlands at this point. Not because of what Bell said, but my own feeling from... Obviously, I have a lot of private conversations with people at Blizzard. I don't report on them because they're private in my eyes. And if someone says this isn't for sharing, then it's not for sharing. This is different to what happened with Bell. The guy was like, yeah, I want you to share this, right? This is something I want you to get out there, and I'm contacting you in private about it. But when I'm at BlizzCon and things, and via my Discord, people contact me. I do know who they are. I do know that they work at Blizzard, and they let me in on certain pieces of information. And that's stuff for me to prepare for going forward, or to wait to see it happens. Because I'll be honest with you guys, a lot of the stuff I get told from people who do work at Blizzard doesn't actually happen. And that's because plans change all the time. It's not because they're misleading me or trying to create doubts. It's a simple case of, this was the plan, this isn't how it's going. It's changed now. But I might have been contacted a month ago saying this is what's going to be happening. I'm like, oh shit, that sounds really bad. And then when it comes to it, it's like, that's not what's happening. It's like, oh, okay, we changed our minds on that. That happens all the time. My issue is always the proof in the pudding. And I'm going to talk about a little bit more about this in the corruption video, because I am very scared right now about Shadowlands. I haven't said that before. I haven't even said it on stream. But I'm really afraid of the vibe that's coming out about Shadowlands, and the more private information and the more public information that's coming out. But more importantly than all that kind of cloak and dagger bullshit is what I'm seeing still happening in BFA. Certainly in terms of numbers tuning, class balancing, all these things that are really important, is I want to have faith that Shadowlands is going to fix a lot of the issues of BFA. But what I'm presented with in BFA, at the end of BFA's life cycle, which is where we are right now, doesn't seem to be following the mantra of what we were told about Shadowlands. Certainly in terms of RNG gear, we know RNG sockets are still going to be a thing, despite the absurd power sockets come with them, and the crazy amount of power coming from some of the corruption items, into a game that is supposed to be the antithesis of all those things. And I think back to my interview with Ian, Watcher, the lead dev on World of Warcraft, where the impression I got was, we're definitely moving away from this kind of stuff. We're moving away from that kind of stuff, or we're going to make it so that it's not a big deal. Yet at the same time, in the live game, we're sticking to the Essence system, which is a big problem for a lot of people. We're introducing a system which should be good, but still carries with it an enormous amount of pointless RNG, with ridiculous power swerves. And that's what worries me, especially when we're hearing, coinciding with all these messages, which are like, there's a low morale there. They're trying to push things. Because I said in my post interview with Bay, after we did our interview with Ian, is I don't expect Shadowlands until 2021. I really don't. However, we're not getting an 8.3.5, and we're in January right now. And that means that Shadowlands Alpha has to be coming relatively soon to build that hype train. As in, really soon. Or it's not going to, and we're going to end up with a BFA 2.0, which is a ludicrously small alpha beta cycle where there's nowhere near enough time to actually effectively change and alter things. I've gone from a mood of being very hype about Shadowlands to feeling like, are you making the same mistakes as you did last time? And that's the crippler. As much as I'm enjoying 8.3, I love this new direction they're going. I love front-loading stuff. It makes more sense to a lot of people. That I don't think are being considered by the guys who can farm 16 hours. Like the guys who are like, I've spent 4 hours today chasing rares. I've been reading these threads on Reddit and MMO Champ and on the WoW forums and things like that. I've been doing this for 4 hours and I didn't find a rare. This is bullshit. It's like, well, you're not considering the guy who simply could not possibly spend an hour doing that. Yet you still want to raid with that guy. You know, there's a lot of bonuses that come with that. But Shadowlands is now my bigger concern. I'm seeing things that I do not like. do not like. I'll talk more about that in the corruption video, but thank you very much for listening, guys. Love to see your thoughts on 8.3. I know some of you aren't enjoying it. Maybe I've clarified a few things for you. I'm also going to link a weak order down below for the light switch game in Old Doom. Some people really struggle with it. I even saw some world first raiders who will go nameless who couldn't do it. Absolutely couldn't do it. There's a weak order been made for it, so I'm going to link it down below and I'll show it on the screen as well. Thank you very much for listening, guys. Bye-bye.